The Lolo Woods, issue 1, with Carmen Maria Mikado writing with Danny Strips on the art. So
just credit as Danny in the book as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is our third Hill House book. This is set in a small town that, and I'd say like even more so than the other two, this one kind of is more abstract and it doesn't really make it necessarily clear what the actual horror story is going to be. There's a couple of what the F moments towards the end.
And one in the middle.
And there's one in the middle, sure, with the weird deer-like kind of creature thing.
It's like a centaur, but a deer.
Yeah, so it sets up these two main characters, this pair of girls.
V and L.
Yeah, and it's mainly told from Elle's perspective. She's the one narrating the story, and they falsely put a movie which was Sea Dogs, which is the backup stories, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's quality when one of the other writers poking fun at it. But yeah.
I do like the idea though that like that backup is actually a movie within like this universe for at least one of the books. That's kind of funny to me.
It's very Stephen King, right? From what I understand from talking to Tim, is there's stuff like that all over Stephen King's
just
writing.
random little links that are kind of meaningless, but they're just there.
So
anyways,
they're going home, but we find out some big mythology stuff. We find out that there was just a big coal mining town. And
they're in Pennsylvania in coal country.
Yeah, so there was a big disaster. And all the coal miners refused to work. More came in, and then they eventually refused to work. But essentially, there was a fire underground. For and it's still apparently raging. Like the ground's still warm. And what's funny about this is I think this is actually loosely based on a real thing.
There's this. I was just bringing up. It's called Centralia, and it's in coal country. A fire started underneath, and the town is just underneath is on fire, and everybody had to leave. So you can go to this town still. You can't stay for very long, but it's been burning since May 27th, 1962. They still don't know what caused it, but
the ground is literally warm, like it's hot.
Yep. And so in this book in Lolo Woods, it's like people can't stay in there, like the basements and cellars, because it's like an oven, and that the ground bubbles up like burst skin, and that like when there's a blizzard, the ground's so hot that the snow just melts, so you can walk from one side of town and be just fine. And it's a really good like tone atmosphere setting.
Yeah, they set up I think you just said it there actually, but they set up the whole idea of the like even like when it snows, the snow just instantly
it
vaporizes.
Kind of makes it this ethereal, like you know how you get like the movies set in the places that are always like 20 hours a day. It's kind of that where it's always kind of summer. It's not warm necessarily. It's not hot, sunny, but the ground, at ground level, it always feels like it's basically summer.
Yeah. So and they set up some things where obviously the men got sick because of what they were the mining and stuff. But they mentioned this weird element where the women in town would get sick as well in a different kind of really peculiar way, where they'd start blacking out. And waking up, and to the point where she says that there used to be a joke that you knew a girl would hit puberty when she'd wake up on the steps, and like it almost sounds really like kind of creepy, like because that implied to me that some girls were getting assaulted, when they were blacking out during some of these time periods.
Although to me, I didn't quite get that, because I got the sense of they were off doing something, and they found them when they woke up, and they didn't necessarily, they never knew where they were when they were blacked out. No one else had seen them blacked out. It was just, you're awake. Where have you been? And they're like, I don't know, I just woke up here.
Oh no, I got that. I'm saying though that during that time, if someone found them.
Well, okay, sure, but what I'm saying is I don't think anyone did find them. I think that, they were off doing something for some sort of entity, perhaps. I don't think there was physical interaction with other people in the way that you're suggesting.
Well, no, I'm saying they're just lying there passed out. I'm not saying they're doing something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they are lying there passed out. I think that's the opening of this book very clearly kind of gets that they wake up in the cinema and they have these odd memories of which one of them had the popcorn, but there's mud on their shoes that wasn't there before. They've been out and back.
Yeah, no. I mean, obviously, when they bring this up in the middle of the book, your mind immediately goes back to the opening, because they literally fell asleep in the movie and are confused as to what they were doing there before.
And this was a trait of the town before the fire underneath started too. So it was, the small little town where the men got sick from coal mining, right? And then the women were just like spaced out for some other thing.
But it does also sound like it stopped for a long time. It sounds like this was something that used to happen and used to be a thing. And
yeah, I wonder if the fire stopped it, and now maybe the fire is kind of going out.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Because it sounds like this is like a surprise, but they don't even necessarily assume that that's what's happened to them. They're just like, oh, we must have fell asleep watching the movie. Like no biggie, right? Bit weird, but no biggie.
Well, and then also, so now I'm going back over it, and it just sounds like this town was a hellscape, because it says like babies were born with placenta as black as soot, so glossy and opaque, it looked like the mothers were birthing coal itself. People couldn't breathe, dead babies crawling in their cradles. Some of them, the women, disappeared at night. Some of the men too. They went underground but never came back up. And you're like, damn, man, like some proper horror.
Yeah, and we see the girls with their parents. We see that both girls are into girls because there's references from one of them, and then V actually has a crush on this girl at school who we see she actually does spend time with. If at the end of the book,
Right.
Is one of the WTF moments at the end is there's this like streak of fire outside the window. And then when we go inside the room after she's sleeping next to the other girl, she gets up and she's got like fire coming from her finger, and she gets up to go to the bathroom, and then we see the final page. The girl she was with has a vortex / hole in her stomach,
but she still seems asleep.
Yeah,
like, she's just like, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. Honestly, none of that. This last couple of pages is interesting. None of it makes any sense. I can't make any heads or tails over any of it means.
I'm absolutely with you there, and but I'm still so into it.
Like, I don't know if, like, the girl with the fire on her finger, V, like, did she cause this to the other girl, or was the other girl the one who's unique and did something to her finger? Like, I don't know who's causing what, or if some third party's just come in and done this to both of them.
I suspect a more random element in the sense that the fire, it hits outside the house, it seems. It goes, we see it outside the window, and then we see her finger, and she notably does not touch Jessica, I think is her name.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't touch Jessica after that. She goes straight to the bathroom to try and she my finger's on fire, it's burning, better run this under the cold tap. And then it's when she comes back out that she sees this. So I don't think she's inherently caused it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's very weird. And like I say, there was a run-in when they're going home, notably, like, one's riding a bike and the other one's sort of standing on the bike. And I kind of took that as kind of a running thing in this town where you don't want to be walking on the ground for too long. You have to kind of keep yourself off of it.
Well, and I like that, too. That's kind of hinted at where she goes, it's a deal that we made. My legs get stronger and she doesn't have to walk by herself.
Yeah.
And it's their kind of their friendship here, too, is that it seems like Elle's kind of the tough one, right? Like, she's the one that'll take the lumps for the other, because she drops her off at this girl's house, so they can, have their relationship. And she's like, yeah, I don't mind getting you laid. Like, I enjoy it. And I'll just go home and be by myself. Like, there's this friendship quality there that almost symbiotic.
Yeah, and she the only thing we established with Elle in terms of romance is that she's got a bit of a crush on the teacher. That they have. So, I mean, there's some character stuff we set up there, and then we obviously on the way home they do have the incident where they see this animal, this creature that kind of like is scary for a second, then sort of runs away. So they're setting up some different stuff here, and it's funny because Dollhouse Family kind of also by the end of the first issue was like, okay, we've got to grasp of some of this, but how does it connect to Celestial stuff? This feels even weirder, where I don't even understand how all these things connect to each other at all yet.
No, I'm with you, but I'm kind of in for the ride.
I'm very curious.
And there's the guy who was the cinema attendant who they know from school, but he's like
super creepy.
Did you enjoy the movie? And he's got that weird grin. He knows something happened.
He seems to. Yeah.
Well, and you look at that page of them with the popcorn, and it's very sexual on these, with the lips and the straw and whatnot.
Yeah, this is get back to me thinking there's something sexually weird going on here when they're blacking out.
they talk about
and even
Elle's talking about a book.
But even
right?
even the joke though, like about what she says, people see you knew someone had hit puberty when they wake up like this. Like
Right.
even though that's not necessarily saying for sure something sexual happened, I think bringing it up along the same line as puberty is intentionally in our heads putting the idea that this
Right.
is something sexual or something about coming of age.
Yeah.
Sure.
But no, but I'm also there's the thing about birds that I didn't notice till now. That if you look at Elle's head in that same panel, there's a parrot in there, right?
Which panel are you referring to? The kind of trippy
On the
one
movie
at the
theater
start?
page. Yeah. Right before she throws up and she notices the boots, or her not the boots, the shoes. Right, and then that bird. So they bring up the book, The Awakening, about a woman that decides that she's not happy with her life and whatnot. And there's a lot of birds in that book.
And the birds are the warning to get out before it's too late.
Yeah. So like, but then you look at her friend V, and her hands make a thing where it almost looks like a mine, or like there's a darkness with a being in there. You know, and
a person as well. We should say, it looks like a person
right.
silhouette.
So so yeah, there's stuff going on here, and this is before we started recording, I kind of was like, oh, there might be a book that I might go through and trade. I think this just might read better in trade, because the month to month it might, because it's almost so atmospheric. And
you might be right, but I'm kind of liking the monthly mystery of what's going on, learning each bit as it goes.
Well, after talking this out with you guys, it's almost like, like when Lost was on. Like, you could watch them all together, but it's almost more fun to be like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I think
talking it out.
The discussion is what makes this more readable monthly. I think if we weren't talking to each other about this, it probably would be better just to wait for the trade.
Yeah,
but...
And so now I'm just, over the course of this conversation, I'm going like, well, no, I kind of want this mystery now. Like, this is the type of stuff that I love, is trying to pick at and figure things out. So, and I'm reading an interview on here with the creators and whatnot, and I guess it started off as a young adult novel that she had an idea for.
All right.
And she just, and then they came to her and said, hey, we're doing this Hill House thing, would you be interested? And she just found it and pitched it, and she never thought she'd be writing comics. So
is this her first comic script work, then?
I believe so.
In that case, the transition has been seamless.
It's pretty solid for a first attempt at this medium. It's pretty solid. And then the art, again, it kind of fits its tone of what it's doing.
Creepy as shit.
Yeah.
It kind of gets that across.
And here's something from the interview where it said that it's very dreamlike, because dreams are nonsensical, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that you can do in a comic a little bit better than in novels.
Yeah.
And so that's where the writer is saying that they sound interesting in the moment but don't translate to writing. However, I woke up and was disturbed by the dream, so I wrote it down. Right. Well, you can describe that now to an artist, and they can put it
recreate
in,
it. Yeah.
Right. So when you think about some of these images there, like of the deer centaur with the antlers that almost look like they're made out of fingers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Or the creepy dude saying, I hope you enjoyed the movie. Like, did he really give them that thing, or is that in one of their minds?
That's like, I always talk about this, where I think the more visual something gets, the better you can do surreal stuff. Because there's definitely times in comics where they'll try and do surreal, and I'll think this would work better as a TV show or a movie. And then, of course, like you're saying here, this works better here than it would maybe just in text. And I think it's because the less of the visual information you have, the more open to interpretation it is, and because of that, it's not as specific. So you actually start to doubt if you're actually just misunderstanding what you're reading, as opposed to it being, clearly, no, this is meant to be subverting your visual expectations. And if it's like a movie, like, no, there's no mistaking what you're looking at on screen. If it's clearly meant to be weird, you understand it is weird. To a comic, to a slightly lesser extent, but you can do that with the art. But slightly lesser, because sometimes you might confuse a comic where panel to panel, like, am I understanding this transition right? Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. And when you're reading just a description, like, everything's open to interpretation to your mind. So your mind might smooth it out and make it not as weird as it's supposed to be, or you might just be confused by it because it's not making sense. But when you're seeing it in front of you, you understand the weirdness of it and accept that it's supposed to be this weird.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting that this was another period piece in this line.
Yeah.
Because obviously the
80s.
others we think have been the 80s. Well, I mean, this has got to be mid-90s, surely, because it mentions, one of them hasn't been the same since Cobain died. So probably mid-90s, maybe a little bit later.
Mid-90s, and and then you have the Dollhouse Family, which thus far has been the 80s and in 1800s.
Yeah, I'd say the primary bit is the 80s, though.
Right,
do you think
Basket is late 70s, probably. So.
Do you think there's a chance these are all set in the same universe?
Yeah. Knowing Hill and who his dad is, I wouldn't put it past him.
Because nothing's contradicted it. Nothing's about any of them is said it can't be in the same world as the other one yet.
No, so I mean, we have Sea Dogs, which ties that in, right? If we get another reference to, a Sea Dogs book or something in another one, and then because I could definitely think that wherever Brody Island is in Basket Full of Heads, it could, why couldn't Shudder to think Pennsylvania be in that same world? And then with Dollhouse Family, it's
been in the UK,
in the UK, and they're real places, right? But no, see, and I'm not. It's weird now that in my association with Pete, I used to not be a horror guy, and not that I go out and seek out horror books and whatnot, but I am more drawn to it because of that creep, I can say. So this is weird. That, I'm actively enjoying these. But I think it mostly has to do with discussion too. I think horror is one of those things where it's better when you have someone to discuss it with.
So what are you giving Lola Woods issue 1, Matt?
I'm gonna give us an 8.5. It was probably closer to an 8 before we started talking because I did like it, but I was on the verge of being well, I just might wait and get this in trade. But going back and having the discussion about it made me enjoy it more. And now I think I need to go back and revisit with some of the other things and see if that changes.
I think this will be one that the core mystery, and I think the other credit to these books is that all three of them are very different settings, very different styles of story.
Yeah.
Carl, what are you giving it?
Actually, a similar thing to Matt in that I'm going to bump it up half a score of what I was going to do because of the discussion. So I'm actually going to give it a 9 now.
I'll give it. I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8. I was going to debate between 8 and 8.5, but I'll go with 8.